All right, and I will share my screen. Okay, so I'll briefly run us through the agenda and then we'll get started. So we're gonna do a quick introduction on XPRIZE, our mission and kind of what we stand for. And then after that, we will give a similar introduction to Aspire, which is one of our competition partners, or sorry, sponsors. And then after that, we will do a competition overview, like I mentioned, and then we'll wrap up with Q&A. So right now, I'm going to pass it off to my lovely colleague, Caroline, who is the program lead for XPRIZE Feed the Next Billion, and she's going to tell us all about XPRIZE. So Caroline, please take it over.
Thank you, Jordan. It's great to see everyone in joining us and attending this webinar. If you're just joining, please send us where you're joining from in the chat. So yeah, as Jordan mentioned, I'll take you quickly through what XPRIZE is and tell you a bit more about our organization. XPRIZE is a future positive movement. It's a nonprofit organization that was founded about 25 years ago, inspired by the competition model and believing in incentivizing innovation through awards and competitions. So our mission is to inspire and empower problem solvers from all over the world to focus their energy and attention and innovation on specific problems and challenges that we identify for them. The prize that inspired XPRIZE back in 1995 was a 1919 competition that was launched in May of that year. And the award was $25,000. It was set forth to anyone from anywhere who can fly nonstop from Paris to New York or the opposite direction. At the time, private aviation wasn't a thing. No one was able to fly straight from that distance. So a competition was put out, and in 1927, almost 8 years after the competition was announced, a pilot, an American pilot, Charles Lindbergh, was able to achieve this challenge and flew nonstop between New York City and Paris. A lot of people tried along the way and didn't make it, but Charles did, and that was the competition that inspired the founding of XPRIZE. And as a result of this competition, an entire industry was born, private aviation. So a very similar prize was the very first prize that we launched at XPRIZE, the Ansari X Prize. It was a $10 million prize purse that was put forth for any team that can design and lower the risk and cost of going to space through a private agency. So at the time, all space travel was led by government, and no one in the private sector was doing private space travel. So XPRIZE thought we'll put out a competition and see if teams are able to succeed, and teams were able to succeed. The winning technology was purchased by Sir Richard Branson, who started the company that we all know today as Virgin Galactic. So it was the very first competition and played a big part in privatizing space exploration in the way that we know today. We've, since that prize, for 25 years now, we've launched 15 prizes that were awarded, and we have 9 active prizes currently. The prize purses over the years have reached around $291 million. We have millions of supporters worldwide and have awarded, of those $291 million, $79 million to date. So a lot of impact. We work a lot with teams that compete in the competitions that we launch to ensure that their reach and impact is maximized. And we'll do that with some of you who apply for this competition as well. With that, I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Arthur Morish. He's the head of Aspire, one of the sponsors on the Feed the Next Billion competition that we're gathered here to discuss today. Art, over to you.
Thank you, Caroline. So it's a pleasure to be here. Aspire, for those of you that aren't familiar with us, is a new organization here in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. The goal of Aspire is to drive the creation of transformative technologies. We're all about inspiring innovation for a better future, and we're happy to sponsor the X Prize. And feeding the next billion people is going to be a real challenge. And this is right in Aspire's wheelhouse in terms of trying to drive innovation for a better future. What we focus on in Aspire is commissioning research that leads to pioneering advances, right? Very similar to what DARPA does in the United States, very similar to other organizations around the world that are driving the thought leadership of the research community. That's what Aspire aspires to be here in Abu Dhabi. So we'll help deliver new technologies with practical applications. If you go to the next one, Jordan. So because the UAE and Abu Dhabi is a small country, we have to focus very clearly on what we want to do. And so we're trying to drive these pioneering advances in shaping Abu Dhabi's R&D strategy, responding to evolving market dynamics, identifying high-profile problems and challenges like this XPRIZE challenge that we're so happy to be sponsoring, funding research and managing R&D projects. So what we do is define the problem statement, monitor the key drivers of technologies, and then enable research by selecting partners and allocating funding. Again, very similar to the process that we're going through here. So our structure is that we're part of the Advanced Technology Research Council here in Abu Dhabi. And there's two legs to that particular organization. One is Aspire, which is the program management organization. The other one is TII, which is Technology Research and Technology Innovation Institute. And they're the ones that actually do a lot of the basic research that goes on here. So between the two, between Aspire, which focuses on managing the research and driving the new technologies, and TII, which is focused on the innovation and actually doing the research, we're the two legs of the Advanced Technology Research Council. And the ATRC is responsible for driving the research strategy across academia, industry, consolidating funds for investment, driving policy and regulation. And the object of the exercise is to be a very flat organization that has very agile decision-making so that we are always on the forefront of driving what needs to be done to advance our goals here in the United Arab Emirates and Abu Dhabi. Next one, please. So TII, as I said, is the applied research arm of the Advanced Technology Research Council. Their object of the exercise is to push the frontiers of knowledge and create a culture of curiosity. TII is a world-class R&D institute, and it focuses on both applied research and advanced technology capabilities. There's 7 research centers that I'll be talking about in just a minute. We draw talent from all over the world, from universities, from research institutions, from industry partners. We're looking to bring the best of the best here together in an intellectual community in the Middle East and contribute to the UAE's growing R&D ecosystem, and in particular drive a knowledge-based economy. The UAE right now has a resource-based economy, but in the future, the goal is to have a knowledge-based economy. So as I said, there's 7 centers to TII, and stay tuned, there will probably be more in the near future, but they span the gamut of everything from autonomous robotics and to quantum materials, to advanced materials, to a variety of different kinds of digital security systems, cryptology, directed energy, you name it. And within those 7 areas, we're very interested in doing. So Aspire now frames the research statements, defines the projects. We work in close consultation with our colleagues at TII, with researchers and innovators and cross-industry stakeholders across both local and the international R&D ecosystem. All right, absolutely focused on ensuring that our research projects have a clear path to successful application. We are not a sandbox. You know, when we're focused on something, when we're providing funding, when we're driving it, the goal in mind is to transition it into something that can be useful to the community. So to that end, we sponsor a variety of challenges, high-profile competitions that engage innovators, talented research teams to develop these groundbreaking solutions to the world's hardest problems. And this XPRIZE challenge is one of those, you know, feeding the next billion. How much cooler can it get than that? So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the XPRIZE team, and they're going to tell us all about the prize and what you guys have to do to win the money.
Great. Thank you, Art. Very smooth transition. So I will talk us through the basic prize structure here. And what you're looking at now is the prize life cycle. So every XPRIZE goes through a life cycle where we start with the design phase that you can see there on the leftmost side. We go into the launch phase and then recruiting, which is where we're at today. So we're recruiting the teams to compete in this competition. And that's hopefully why you're here today to learn more about that competition. You can see to the right of the purple dot in the middle, there are a lot of other phases in the competition. And we will be sure to hold, you know, future webinars on these other stages, but just to give you a broad bird's eye view of kind of what each XPRIZE is like, this is what we go through. So it all ends with the final awarding ceremony there on the right, and then we move into scaling success, and that's helping the teams get their products to market. So each XPRIZE addresses the world's grandest challenges. So with this prize, Feed the Next Billion, there are really three core challenges that we are aiming to solve, and those are environmental degradation, food safety and malnutrition, and then animal welfare and biodiversity loss. And I'm sure, as many of you know that are already in this ecosystem and space, that these are some of the most important, biggest challenges that we are facing today for sustainability and food and technology. So who can compete in an XPRIZE? Well, one of the really cool things about XPRIZE in general is that anyone can compete. And we really mean that. So you can be a big company with employees, or you can be a startup that's working out of your parents' garage. You can be a university student, and anywhere in between. We really want all teams to consider competing, and we believe firmly that innovation can come from anywhere. And so that's why we encourage all to enter. And because this is a very technical challenge that we're trying to solve, we do encourage teams to have at least one member on their team that has the technical background. But again, anyone can enter, and we highly encourage them to. How to win the competition? Well, it's very simple, but it's not easy. We expect the winning teams, to develop structured chicken breast and fish fillet alternatives that are comparable to what's conventional on the market today. So all the important things that matter: the sensory properties, the cookability, versatility, nutrition, and then we're really hoping to develop products that are less impactful on the environment than what's happening today, obviously. The second paragraph there talks about a bonus prize, and what we're looking for there is we've set aside a separate prize purse for the team that can develop the lowest production cost whole animal origin free growth media. And again, for those of you in the ecosystem industry, you know this is a major challenge that we're facing currently, because those growth media are very expensive, and they're really proving to be a barrier to scaling these products and technologies. Why compete? This is a great question that we get all the time from teams, and there's many, many reasons why to compete, as you can see here. I won't read through each bullet point, but some major ideas here are technology. So you get to have your technology validated by industry experts. You will go through rigorous validation processes. We have an amazing judging panel that has very high qualifications in science and technology, and specifically food technology, and they will be evaluating your tech, and you'll get great feedback from them. There's also, you'll have the chance to network with industry experts, and you'll get to meet competing teams who are also your colleagues, and they're in the space too. You'll learn from them. There's, of course, the financial incentive. So you have the chance to win the prize purse, a few $1,000,000, which is not bad. And it's not listed here, but we do hear regularly from teams that both win competitions in the XPRIZE and don't win, that competing in XPRIZE competitions really brings their teams together. They feel a major boost in camaraderie and group dynamics and team bonding and that sort of thing, because there are many challenges that you will face along the way. And that really brings teams together. What you see now is just a basic timeline of the major milestones in the competition. And so there are really three broad phases of the competition. The first one is a paper submission phase. And you'll see on the left side here that registration is the deadline for that is May 31st. That's coming up soon, but there's still plenty of time. What that entails is submitting this technical submission, that's the paper submission I mentioned. And I'll go more into detail on that on the next slide. But basically you will submit this tech submission and our judging panel will review that. And you'll see on the third peg there, we will have our judging panel review these tech submissions and they will make their selection of the semifinalist teams this summer. So in July 2021, a few months from now. From there, the semifinalist teams that are selected will be working on their prototypes, and they'll have about a year to do that when they go to the semifinalist judging summit at the end of 2022, or the summer of 2022, where they'll test their prototypes out with a live judging panel. And again, we'll go into more detail on that very soon. But from there, the judging panel will select the finalists, and then they will continue to work on their prototypes, this time developing more than one prototype. And then this will all culminate into the finalist summit, where the winners will be selected and ultimately the prize purse distributed. So let's dive in. After I take a sip of water. The first round, the technical submission, this is that paper phase. So what we're really looking for here are some basic information on your team. Of course, we want to know who's on your team, what their backgrounds and expertise are, what qualifies them to develop this technology. We also really are interested in knowing your vision and mission of your team and how this lines up with the mission of the prize. The solution design approach is really the meat of this paper submission. This is highly related to your technology, and we'll be asking for some data there. We want to understand how your technology works and what makes it unique. We'll also be asking about your business and partnership plans. And this is really to kind of gauge how your team is thinking about the long term. So how do you imagine your product to fit into the market post-prize? We really want to know how you envision that, getting your alternative protein product to consumers. The deadline again for this is May 31st. So next month, end of next month, we still have time. And then again, the judging panel will select the semifinalists, up to 30 of them. And the semifinalists will split a milestone prize of $500,000. So they'll split that evenly. And the intent there is for the semifinalist teams to use that money to pay for their transportation and travel costs to get to the finalist judging summit. Now we've combined here on this slide the second and third rounds, the semifinalist round and the finals round. I know there's a lot of information on here, and we will send these slides out after so you can examine them, but I'll walk you through them right now. On the middle column, the semifinalist column, we have the criteria for that semifinalist judging panel. So you will be evaluated on the structure and size of your prototype. So we're really looking for teams to submit a prototype that's up to 2 ounces large. Nutrition, of course, is very important. So we'll be looking for nutrition equivalency to what's on the market today. So if you're developing a chicken breast product, it should be comparable to a chicken breast product that's in the market now. Preparation and cookability. So teams will be tasked with cooking their product for the judging panel. They'll have very minimal ingredients, salt, pepper, and a fat to cook the product in. Sensory properties, of course, are very, very important. Taste, texture, smell, those sorts of things will be evaluated as well. The environmental footprint and economic evaluation, these will be paper submissions during the semifinals round, and the judges will review these documents. You will have the opportunity as a finalist team to update the data in these too. So this is really kind of like a a first version of your evaluation on these metrics. Again, the semifinals round will be conducted during summer of 2022. The date is tentative, of course, because it's still a ways away and we haven't set a specific date yet, but we will be sure to update all the teams once we do have that date. And then the milestone award to be given out at the semifinals round is $2.5 million. So that will be distributed evenly amongst the 10 finalist teams that are selected. Now, on the very rightmost column, that's the finals round. And you'll notice that it's very similar to the semifinalist criteria. There are a few extra metrics, and the difficulty has increased slightly. So, for example, the structure and size criteria has increased from 2 ounces to 3 to 4 ounces. So it's a little bit bigger. Nutrition is the same. The preparation and cookability, rather than your teams cooking the prototype this time, we will have a group of culinary experts and chefs prepare the products for the judging panel, and they will be cooking. And I want to draw your attention to the versatility metrics. They'll be preparing your products using a variety of different recipes, up to 3 recipes, so that we can really prove and show how the product can fit into different cultural recipes and so forth, that it's versatile. One important metric is the consistency one. So you'll notice this is new in the finals round. Teams will be tasked to produce a minimum of 25 units. So 25 fish fillets, for example. And the reason is there will be a blind taste test, and the judging panel will have to taste a lot of different units of the product to ensure consistency and so forth. The environmental footprint and economic evaluation. As far as the environmental footprint goes, we will be conducting life cycle assessments or something equivalent to this at that point, and that will be to verify the paper submission that came in the semifinalist round. That economic evaluation will also be a paper submission, and as I previously mentioned, you will have the opportunity to update the information in this document at that time. Again, the date for the awarding ceremony for the finals round will be the end of 2023 into 2024, and the judging panel will select the top 3 winning teams there, and also the bonus prize, which I'll go into on the next slide here. So the grand prize award, this is what everyone cares about, I'm sure. The first place will win $7 million. The second place will win $2 million, and then third place will take home $1 million. And then again, that bonus prize there at the bottom, that goes to the team that develops a whole animal origin-free growth medium at the lowest production cost. And the team that can do that will take home $2 million. So that was a lot of information. I'm sure there are questions, so we will pause now and take any questions that you have. And I will stop sharing screen.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. There are a few questions coming in through the chat and the Q&A function. Please keep those coming. We'll go through them with you next. I'm sure people are taking a few minutes to digest all this information. But I'll kick us off. One of the questions in the Q&A function came in. Do you guys fund for us to do the solution? I'm assuming if the team has an idea only but doesn't have funding, what do we do? That's a great question. I think XPRIZE is a bit different from other organizations that offer grant funding with where a team may have an idea for research or an idea for a prototype where they apply for funding and then execute on their idea. XPRIZE works a bit differently. We award innovation. We award the solutions themselves. So oftentimes, XPRIZE competitions award the purse, the award money to teams who can demonstrate success and develop an actual physical prototype. And that is the case for this competition. As Jordan mentioned, in the semifinals, we start looking at the first prototype that teams submit. And in the finals, we look for an improved prototype and then work with teams on scaling up and marketability and commercialization. So unfortunately, you have, as Jordan also mentioned, you must demonstrate something to XPRIZE along the way. But you have a couple months to put a team together that can do that. So if you're interested in joining forces with another team, I recommend that you sign up on our prize operations platform. I can send that in the chat very soon. On that website, you can go in, create a team at no cost, and then kind of explore who else is on there. Currently, we have around 150 potential teams on that website. So you can look at other teams that have expressed interest and reach out to the teams to see if you want to join forces with them. So again, like there are opportunities to get to a stage where you can start working on a prototype for the competition. And thanks, Jordan. He just shared the prize operations platform in the chat function. So you can click on that and explore your options there. Cool. Another question in the Q&A. Do you provide money for tickets and everything? That's a really great question. A lot of teams ask us this question about milestone awards. What do we do with them? Do we have specific requirements for how you spend this award money? And the answer is we don't have any specifications. You are free to use the award money however you see fit. We don't cover travel for testing. We ask teams to cover their own expenses, but we try to work with teams and with partners along the way to make these things easier. But again, the milestone awards are intended to support teams either with their solution development or travel to contribute and participate in the prize. However they want to spend the money is fine. I know, Jordan, if you wanted to add anything to that question. I know we get that question a lot.
I think you handled it perfectly, so nothing to add. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Sure. Cool. Keep questions coming in. There's one more in the Q&A. So I'll take that one. And if you have any additional questions, please share them as well. The third question is this food tech? I mean, are you trying to select the nutritional healthy food tech or looking for the chef? That's a really, really great question too. This is a food tech competition. We do anticipate and expect teams to submit an alternative protein for the judging panel to assess. It's open for any solution approach. So we've seen so far teams who have who follow a plant-based approach and want to achieve the competition criteria that way. Other teams work on cultivated or cell-based meat to achieve the competition criteria. And those teams become eligible also for the bonus prize that we mentioned. So it is a food tech prize. Having a chef on your team is a great idea since a portion of this is cooking the product yourself and giving teams ownership over the preparation of the product during the semifinals. And in the finals, we will be supplying chefs to test your product and see how it functions. Right. One more question in the chat. I'm sorry, Adil, if you can clarify your question in the chat function, that would be great. If you can send that again, I'm happy to take that one. Right. Keep your questions coming. Yeah, go ahead, Jordan. Sorry.
Ditto. Yeah, any other questions, please feel free to add those in the chat and we'll be happy to answer those for you right now.
And Art, if you have questions for us, please also chime in.
Yeah.
We'd love to have a discussion.
No, I don't think I have any questions. I'm really happy to see that we've got 150 people that are registered for this, or groups that are registered for this. I think that's really important. We want to grab as many ideas as we can from as many different sources. And the whole idea of wisdom of the crowds is really important on this one, I think. So.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. We are very happy with how many teams we have right now, and we encourage everyone here to also kind of sign up. As I mentioned, you can sign up and explore on the platform and see if you want to join forces with a team or go in with your own group to compete. We have one more question from Martina. What is the limitation on company size? Jordan, do you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, so that's a great question. We get that a lot. There is no limitation on company size, actually. So we encourage any and all teams to enter and compete if they'd like to. And it can be a one-person team, and it can be, you can have 20, 30, 50 people. There's no limitation.
Great.
You know, Jordan or Caroline, you might want to go over how the intellectual property is handled on this too. That's something that I know some of the people in my organization and in TII have asked that question. So that's probably a good one to chat about for a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question that we also get a lot from potential teams that are interested and concerned, as anyone would be, as they enter into this competition. So I would refer anyone who's interested again to sign up on POP. There's under the resources tab on that platform, you can look at the competitor agreement. Every team that competes in a competition with XPRIZE has to, of course, sign an agreement that protects their rights throughout the competition. So look up the agreement on POP. A short answer to your question, Art, is there's a lot of clauses in this agreement that protect team IP. It's very important to us. A lot of teams in any prize work with proprietary information that we must protect. XPRIZE doesn't take any share of IP in any competition. Teams have 100% ownership of that as they compete. So that's in short. There's a lot more information about that in the competitor agreement, and it's live on POP for everyone to view.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. Another question in the chat, in the Q&A that came in, food products being perishable, what is the time frame folks are looking for the product preservation? So again, like that's a really, really good question. And as you'll see, we don't have shelf life as part of the competition criteria that we're looking for. The reason for that, as we design any competition and operate competitions, we want to strike a balance between what is achievable, but also very audacious. And you'll find that all prizes kind of fit within that description. It's a very audacious target, but it's still achievable for teams. Shelf life is not a part of the competition, so we won't be testing you on that throughout the life of the competition. However, as you wish to commercialize your product, you will have to follow local or regional or international food regulations for food safety. So, for example, if you're in the United States, you would have to go with FDA and USDA regulations for food safety and preservation and shelf life. The other reason we don't have that in the competition criteria currently is a lot of the regulation around cultivated proteins is being discussed currently by regulatory authorities. So we don't want to specify anything in the competition that might go, that might not be in line with those regulations once they come in. So we don't have any requirements for that, but of course, as you want to commercialize your product, this is something you have to think about. All right. A lot of questions. Okay, one great question too. Participating teams should take care about patenting itself, or do we do this as part of the competition program and service? Jordan, you want to take that one? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer, unfortunately, is no. XPRIZE does not offer that service of patenting IP and technologies and so forth. We would love to, but it's outside the scope of what we do as an organization in this competition. But to kind of refer back to what was previously discussed, your IP will be protected in this competition. All that is outlined in the competitor agreement. So if you'd like to learn more about the details on that, please do sign up on POP, register an account there, and then you'll have access to that competitor agreement where you can read all the fine print, which we highly encourage you to do.
Wonderful. There's a question in the chat, and I think it's for Art. Will the sponsors have another role after the competition ends?
Well, they may. The sponsors may be interested in funding further research. The sponsors may be interested in trying to see what else needs to be developed as the, at the end of the competition, once we see what the results look like. But first we have to see the results, and then we'll figure out what the next role is going to be.
Thank you, Art. Right, I think Adil sent a clarification about their question in the Q&A. I'm going to read it off and then try and answer. You've said that we need to submit a prototype first, after which we select the winner and then we provide funding. But those who don't have money for the prototype to develop first and may have ideas, would we give funding for that or not, if I'm reading that correctly? I think it's a fair question. Again, XPRIZE, we do work, we do want teams to submit a prototype in order to compete. There's a ton of grant programs that offer support for research, and we can share the resources that we know about that with you. If you send us an email, we can send our email, put our email in for everyone in the chat function, so you can send us directly, and we can put you in touch with partners that we work with that might offer some grant funding. But XPRIZE specifically awards a winning technology or food technology in this case specifically. So if you have a great idea and want to work with other expertise that have the ability or funding to develop a prototype, we encourage you to go on the Prize Operations platform that we sent the link for in the chat and explore networking with other teams that may complement your expertise.
Yeah. Also, on that note, there's just to reiterate, the first part of the competition, that technical submission, that's just a paper submission too. So that won't require a prototype, and you can, if you were to advance to the semifinals round, that could help you with this grant funding that Caroline's talking about. It could give your technology sort of a boost there if you were to make it into that round of the competition.
Great. Another question. I see people talking to each other in the chat, which is great. That's another way to connect with potential teams. The chat function is there for you all to network together and find synergies. So great, keep going. And we'll also host other sessions. If you do sign up on POP, you get access to a lot of team information sessions that we host. We'll be hosting office hours at the end of the month. So if you do sign up on POP, you will be receiving invitations to these sessions, and we'll hear more and be able to meet other teams as well and talk with them. Okay, one question from Martina in the Q&A. Will you have experimental use exceptions for tasting the products, as presumably we won't have FDA approval by the judging stage? That is a great question. And the answer is potentially yes. We work with partners on the testing, and that's another thing. It's a great question and segue to talk about the partnerships that we work with. XPRIZE operates competitions and designs them, as Jordan kind of talked us through the life cycle of any prize. A big portion of what we do happens in collaboration with Prize partners. If you go on the Feed the Next Billion website, you'll see a couple of partners that we've already onboarded. And we work with different types of partnerships throughout the life of Prize. So you may be on this call and wondering, I don't really see myself as a team. Can I partner with XPRIZE in another format? And the answer is yes. So we work with research organizations that can support teams with research findings. We work with test sites, to your question, Martina, that help us operate testing at different stages of the competition. And those partners work with us on acquiring all the approvals necessary for different testing. We also work with scaling impact partners, investors, accelerator programs that work directly with teams to support them along the way. So testing is very important. It's one of the key things that XPRIZE is very well known for. It's a stamp of approval. You can take our testing results and go apply for a patent or apply for regulatory approval through those testing support. So that's one of the things that if you're in the crowd today and can offer testing support for this competition, please email us and we can see what we can do together. All right. I'm scanning the chat. I think everyone's just talking to each other. I don't see questions there. We can hang on the line for a few more minutes if you have any additional questions. Oh, one more. Question for Jordan. Is there a limit to the number of members on a competing team?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is no. There is no limit on the number of team members that can be on your team.
Great. Jordan, I have a question, another question that we get a lot from teams. Can I work with teams that live in another country, or do I have to work with teams that are in the same country as me?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, absolutely, you can work with teams in other countries, and XPRIZE encourages that too. So we like to make connections between teams and increase the diversity there. So if you can and would like to, we highly encourage you to do that. Any other questions?
Oh, yes. Adel, you can email us this question. If you have any questions about this competition, we're happy to answer those too. All right, one more question from Martina. Are there any limitations to the technology that can be used? The answer is no, there shouldn't be any limitations to the tech used. At the core of it, XPRIZE is an innovation and technology incentivization machine. We want to see technology that we haven't seen before. And lots of times teams surprise us in competitions. We come in with some expectations about what teams will present to us, what kind of technologies they'll use, but they always surprise us and we always welcome these surprises. The only limitations that I can think of are if the technology doesn't meet the price criteria. So the price criteria are the bottom line. If your technology can achieve these targets, then it's an eligible tech.
Well, I don't see any other questions coming in. We have a few people are raising their hands. If you have questions, please do add those in the Q&A form. We don't want to open up the audio settings for all the teams right now or the participants at this time. So we will answer the questions via chat if that's okay with you.
All right, I think, oh, one more. Do you plan to coordinate with food authorities to assess security of the product? It's a really good question. We're open to collaboration with everyone. Within the bounds of this competition, we don't ask teams to scale up their production. So we're only testing a prototype. Food safety and security is a big topic that teams must address if they plan to commercialize and go to market with their products. We have advisors on food security and food safety that work with us to make sure that the prize is operated properly. But in terms of commercialization, we don't ask teams to do that. And food safety is a big component of commercialization. So yeah. All right. We'll give folks maybe a couple more minutes to send last questions in the chat. We have about 10 minutes left on the time. So yeah, if you have any other questions, please bring them in. I just want to take this chance to thank everyone for their amazing collaboration and kind of activity in the Q&A function. We are very happy when we see a lot of questions from teams, a lot of interest from potential partners and collaborators. So we really appreciate all of you. And I appreciate Aspire for being a prize sponsor along with a couple other sponsors, the Tony Robbins Foundation and an anonymous sponsor as well. Without them, we can't do this prize, so thank you. And yeah, without you as teams and partners, we won't have a competition either. So I appreciate all of you joining us and being here and asking us questions. Great last question from Martina. We'll take that one and kind of take that to talk about some next steps. The question is, remind us how we can share this webinar with those who could not attend. So we will share this recording of the webinar in our monthly newsletter that we send out to anyone who's interested to receive it. If you want to receive the newsletter, you can go on our website, XPRIZE website, and click on the Feed the Next Billion competition. And then if you scroll all the way down, you can insert your email to receive updates from us. So we will share this webinar through the newsletter. We'll also share it with the Aspire team. So if you have their contact information and want the recording, they're a great resource for that as well. And we'll also list this webinar on our YouTube channel. So if you go to XPRIZE Feed the Next Billion's website, you can go to our YouTube channel and see the webinar recording there. Right. So maybe in closing, as Jordan kind of walked us through the presentation, our current phase of the competition is team registration. So we're very focused on spreading the word about this prize and getting teams and interested individuals and companies and groups to come join us in this amazing competition to feed the next billion. So we're recruiting teams right now. The closing date of team recruitment is May 31st. And it's the same date for the technical submissions. So technical submission opens on April 16th. And you can apply, submit your application through the POP platform, the prize operations platform that we sent in the chat. So yeah, these are the things coming up. Jordan, over to you for closing.
Sure. Just want to echo the gratitude. Thank you so much for joining us tonight or this morning, wherever you are located in the world. It's night for us here in Los Angeles. Really appreciate you taking the time. We will be in touch. If you've signed up for the newsletter, be sure to check back on the prize website too for updates. Thank you again, and wishing you the best of luck and safety out there in these different times that we're all facing. So thank you and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Art.
Looking forward to seeing everybody here up on the finalist stand.